And welcome back to A Splash of Paint, where it's time for part one of our new Trees Through the Seasons feature. Let's take a closer look at what happens to trees and shrubs as they wake up after winter and capture the fresh new shoots of spring. So I've got all my colours and brushes and everything ready to go. I'm just going to paint straight on the watercolour paper there. I'm going to start off by mixing up a nice sort of ivy colour. And for this, I'm going to use lots of lemon yellow because it's a much brighter, more springtime colour. I've got a medium tree brush there. I've got a big splodge of lemon yellow. I'm going to pull some of this into the water, and I want to make this quite definite. I'll mix it with some natural blue, and you can see straight away how bright and fresh this green actually is. I'm going to give it a bit of a stipple. Take your time with this little process because you want the brush to be nice and spiky. And that's what you're looking for. So if we do an ivy-covered springtime tree, the first thing to do is actually stipple in the ivy that surrounds the tree. Now it tends to start off quite broken at the bottom, then it goes really broad in the centre. And then it starts to get thinner as it works its way around the tree. And just take your time on the edges, get that nice open effect. Stipple and dab it on, and then work up towards the top of this tree, trying to make it thinner as it goes away, making sure it's still giving the stippling effect. And eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to change brushes and go for the smallest tree brush, just so we can paint in the sort of large trunks of the tree. In fact, if you turn the brush upside down, you can get really small with it, as the ivy actually follows it. And then I'll work the same on this side as well. So just painting the boughs of the tree, the ivy covered areas. Looks a bit like a cactus really when you first do this. Then what I'll do is put some shadows into this. So I'll get some natural grey, pop a little bit just in the corner of the green. I would say the light's coming from this side. We'll darken the opposite side to that, just by tapping in a few shadows with natural grey. Once you've put a few on, it's going to look a little bit stuck on, so clean your brush, get some kitchen roll, and give it a little bit of a wipe so the brush is almost dry. And use that damp brush, just test it on your hand and just blend it in. So it's a damp brush tapping over the top of the green, and just let it work into the actual ivy, and you can see it's starting to make it look round, which is more or less what you're looking for. Makes quite a nice 3D effect. While I've got the green, leave a bit of a gap at the bottom, I'm just going to drop in some land at the base there. This is the small tree brush again. Just working across and giving the grassy banking effect. I'm going to get some lemon yellow and pop that in as well, just at the bottom there. And then we'll put the branches. Now what you do is you tend to start off with a slightly larger brush, maybe a size 4 or even something as big as a 6. And use natural grey and some natural yellow, which is a sandy colour. Those two colours together will make quite a nice tree bark colour. And we can work out from these areas. Just try and be a little bit jumpy with your brush, because when you paint a spring tree, you don't see many leaves, it's mainly the branches. So you start off by painting it as a winter picture, and then pop a few leaves on afterwards, and that is normally enough for the springtime tree. So just branching out at this point, that's the joke of the day. Wasn't very funny really, was it? I'm just going to add these branches. You can see how it's starting to bring it alive at this point. Let's go from this side as well. We can get some nice branches coming over, dropping down as we work our way through. And eventually what you'll probably end up wanting to do is move on to a rigger brush. You get quite a lot of branches that hang down at the bottom of the tree, poking through the ivy. And then just using a rigger brush or a liner or detailer, and same colour. It helps not to have too much paint on your brush when using a rigger, because you will get a finer line. And basically just adding that little bit extra fine detail branches, get them coming out of the tree. Some from around the back, and almost little flicks of your brush. Just very lightly flick your brush. And that's brought the main winter branches. Work them in. And then we'll go for the extra large tree brush. Clean it. Kind of squeeze the excess. This is a monster brush, this one. But it's a very broad, soft hair, which is great for doing the really close-up leaves and also the very fine wispy bits that you get right on the end. I've got the green there. I'm going to mix it through and stipple it a little bit. And if you look close at the brush, you can see it's got a very wide open to it. It's very broad at the top there. So the first thing I want to do is I want to very lightly just kind of put some little kind of grassy type brush strokes, because one thing I always think about the springtime, the leaves are very soft and feathery, and this will help to give people that effect. And you can see it works quite well giving that effect. And then I'll put it in the lemon yellow, work it round, give it a good stipple, and then basically we can just put some leaves on. Now you can see that this brush gives big blobs. Gives big blobs of leaf. And every time you dab in your palette, the brush changes shape, which is quite nice. So a nice, fresh, open sort of tree effect. And we'll just put a bit more blue in it, make a darker colour, put a few more taps. So it's giving very close-up individual leaves there. And just to finish this picture off, to come back to the size 6 brush, burnt sienna with a bit of grey, because it's darker at the bottom, and we're going to put the actual tree trunk on that goes in, just using a wee bit of water just to soften it into the actual landscape, and use the same colour. Light's coming this way, so a bit of a shadow and an old rustic fence just to give that little bit of scale to the tree. And there you go, folks, a very effective way of painting the lovely, colourful springtime trees. So a few simple tips there for you to practice so that you're ready to spring into action once the first green shoots start appearing. Next time we'll be taking a look at some more trees through the seasons, but this time when they appear on the catwalk dressed in their spectacular summer outfits. Now it's time to shine the introducing spotlight on the colourful world of SAA professional artist Jen Gardner and take a closer look at some of her top tips for creating a vibrant mixed media landscape.
I'm going to show you first of all the starting point that I like to use for my pieces of work to do with the landscape and to do with the natural world. And what I have tended to do, as you can see initially, I've drawn out with the SAA blue masking fluid with a pipette. I've literally drawn out some shapes from the sketchbooks that I have for reference. And I like to keep the flow of the real life sketchbook work so that it translates itself onto another piece of work, and I can depict completely what I've been using outside in the field, so to speak. So I'm just dampening the paper a bit with these incredibly good little bottles of Atelier water sprays, and I'm going to just literally squeeze some colour out onto the paper just to see how it flows, let it really just take part, enjoying the paper and enjoying the actual space of colour, water and paper. I'm just really getting into the movement and the flow of what I see from the sketch, and it's also about transferring the colours and the feelings of a space that I've been to and I've enjoyed being. So it's a really nice, very relaxing, imprecise technique, but it is such good fun to do because it really does tune you in to the colours that you've used in your sketchbook and how you're going to transfer that atmosphere and the joy of the place into the picture. So here I go. And I'm getting the saliva's going to get very excited in a bit because I love this section of the work. It really is about watching the colours flow. It's beautiful, just bleeding into colour, colour into colour, and it creates this beautiful ambience of colour that I can just enjoy, just as it is, just enjoying the colour and developing the language across the paper. Lovely thick watercolour paper I'm using, obviously, for the absorbency, which is quite important. Well, actually, not just quite important, it's very important because you've got to get that succulence of colour and all those wet marks across the paper. So I'm just pulling it down with an inch brush. I think it's kind of a synthetic brush. It's nothing that you need to worry about, but it is such a useful tool. It really is fantastic to move the colour quickly into each other. And I'm just getting very excited just looking at this now. So I'm very rarely sitting down. I tend to like to move about a bit, keeping the water really nice and flowy across the picture. I'm going to drop some more colour in. Let's get some red in there. Just really getting a feel from the sketch now of how I want to move the colours. Take my atelier, just a little bit of a palette knife, just spreading it across, and you'll see the beauty of these atelier acrylic paints is that they move so perfectly, so quickly, and then you're just adding colour to colour again, and moving and moving and moving it, and then you're getting your nice big 1-inch brush, spreading it across. And I hope you're getting as excited as I am, because this is good fun. Okay. I'll just leave this to bed down now and let you see how it proceeds for the next piece. I've got now a second piece that I've got working on in the same series, and this has got dry inks, and it's also got the masking fluid that's dry. So I should be rubbing some of this away so that I can show you a development of the first piece of work that you saw on camera. I'm going to now, as I was describing to you before, talking about pieces of collage, I'm quite interested in adding depth to this lovely watercolour paper and the textures that I use. And so what I've already prepared is some tissue paper which is painted in acrylic, so it actually is a nice strip of colour that I can apply straight into the colours that we already have. So I'm going to be just showing you that. This is like an acrylic medium that you can actually coat the piece of paper, and you're adding again to the acrylic by installing it into the picture. So you've got some real depth now happening with some of the shadows in the sketchbook idea that I developed onto the large piece. So it's literally coating the paper and adding it to create depth. And that's the actual joy of it, is that it does create this strong shape against all the fluid shape that's in the background. And what I'll do is also just take some more of the blue masking fluid away, so you can see how that can be developed, adding ink to the background. So you've got this lovely structure already in place with the masking fluid and the inks. The inks have been really quite sort of free and fluid, just moving together, but now we can hone in on some detail work, which is always a joy too, because it then starts to restructure the picture that I like to create. So I'm just going to dip pen and ink, and I'm starting to draw into some of the lines that we've got that have been made by the masking fluid, which gives that nice silhouette shape. So we've really got this nice thing happening with some strong lines against a background. And that's the beauty of the masking fluid. It really gives you that structure that you can actually start to work with within the context of the line work against the lovely fluid work. So if you wanted, you actually offer a little bit of water to the inks and it gives you that nice fluid structure. And that's really nicely standing out. So I'm going to just get hold of these lovely popular new Derwent sticks, which seem to be creating quite an interest in a lot of new ways, because you can actually use them dry, which I'm just picking out some of this lovely fluid shape here on the tree. So you can use the area of the white that's showing from the masking fluid, but you can draw on top, and that's really nice. But the beauty of also these lovely things is you can actually wet them into the background that you've been using, which for me is ideal, because you're adding again and you're making this embellished surface full of colour and marks, which I absolutely love. I just get a little bit of wet on there just to see what happens. And so that's really moving in the colour into the space, and it's creating that depth, but it's also got that lovely brightness simply because we've got that white underneath rather than you putting a coat onto another colour. You've got that real shining out colour combination. So it's all these simple little tools just to create depth and texture, which is the essence of the work.
Fantastic combination of colours, great for adding depth, movement and texture to the finished painting, and we look forward to seeing more of Jan and her flowing style in the very near future. Okay, it's time for us to take a little break now, folks, but join us in part 3 when versatile SIA professional artist Keith Fenwick returns to complete his riverside journey in the concluding part of today's Try Your Hand at project. We'll see you after the break.